Has the market changed its mind about what the Fed may do next?
We have got to get inflation behind us. I wish there were a painless way to do that. There isn't.
I think this is a two-part policy mistake of historic proportion.
I think the odds of a recession in 2023 are very high.
I think you'd offer the American people an apology.
Hello, I'm Chris Crystal with Communal Stockholm, and today is Friday, September 30th, 2022, and these are our thoughts about the market and what's going on. In Sweden, we're still in a very depressed mode, and it looks to get worse economically. The markets are pulling in. Right now, I think the biggest things on our mind are the housing market, which is showing declining sales or extended sales day periods for houses and apartments. You're seeing less people showing up for these viewings, and then the period of time to actually make the transaction is a little bit longer. And so this is a negative sign for the Swedish market. We also see our trade in boutique trade, or people actually physically shopping in a store, is declining. It had a 9% decline in August. And we see a lot of offices and spaces that are open and available for rent. So we don't really have a good sign there. And then we also have continued higher energy prices. The electricity network looks to see more high prices. We are achieving some record high prices in some levels, so that's not so good. And then, of course, we have what's going on in the Baltic Sea. We call it the Eastern Sea or the EasternSea, but it's because of what's gone on with NordStream 1 and 2 and the destruction of those cables into Germany. Despite the fact that you have the Baltic pipeline coming from Norway into Poland and Germany, it will not be enough to meet the needs. It's only 10,000 or 10 billion cubic meters of gas. So that doesn't fully replace what Germany was getting from Russia. So we'll wait to see what the developments are there, if they build more pipelines or if they actually decide to turn back on the Groningen fields in Amsterdam, or if they want to freeze out the voters and get us to comply. So back to what's going on with Nord Stream 2. We have a meeting with the UN Security Council today that was called for by Putin, and there'll be discussions there about who caused the sabotage. And you really have to look at the evidence, of course, and then you have to draw your conclusions from who it would be. Would it have been Putin? Which is what a lot of people in Europe are pointing towards, and many in America. And then you also have many in America and elsewhere pointing towards it would have been the United States. And you have the, so if you look at it from a, just what's the evidence, well, it's blown up. So why would Putin blow up his own pipeline? Initially, these pipelines are running out of loss, and then you get a realized gain through the income stream. But if you say cost, and then you make it a realized loss by blowing it up and make it ineffective, you lose your revenue stream. And something like 80% of Russia's income, GDP, is based on energy product trades, so oil and gas. So why would they cut this off? Because this is a very important tool for Putin in terms of negotiations, either to bring a peace table talk for Ukraine, or if Putin was pressed, to bring a peace table talk for Russia. So it would not make a lot of sense. Maybe you have to be Magnus Carlsen to figure this one out in the chess moves as to why you would do it this way if you were Putin. So, and how would this have occurred if Putin would have done it? Would they have done it with ships? Would they have done it with deep sea divers and submarines? Would they have done it with a drone? We don't have any real evidence there to say that the Russian fleet in the Baltic Sea and would have planted bombs. We don't have any recorded flights of Russian jets or drones coming in and launching missiles. We don't have any recorded radar of saying this happened. We've had our occasional sightings of submarines in Sweden, so maybe we would say it happened that way. But you don't have a lot of real kind of evidence to show that it would have been there. And we did have the Baltops 22 going on this summer, or Baltops 22, which was run by the United States Navy. And they were off Denmark, very close to where the pipeline is and very close to where the explosions were. and you had a ship that would be important to this, which is called the USS Kearsarge. And if you look at what their capabilities are, and assault vessels and deep sea divers and the demolitions necessary, you would have it right there in a ship with 2,000 people that eventually went to Denmark and is now back over by the UK, according to the USNI. So it's difficult to say who it would be. The game will play out, and it looks like it could be, on one hand, a NATO strategy to incur the 5th article and say Europe is under attack. Sweden was very clear to say that it was not an attack on Sweden, although we do say our electrical network is vulnerable, and this did occur in the economic zone that we control, and we're losing our cod as a result. But that's not a big export factor for Sweden's GDP. It is a small percentage, but it's more for the Swedes. And you would have to look deeper into this to say, why would the US do this? And you've had the rhetoric since the Bush administration talking about NordStream and cutting off Russian supply of gas to Germany. You have comments from Condoleezza Rice during the Obama administration. You've seen how it developed with the Obama administration, and then how it developed with the Trump administration, with a lot of rhetoric about Nord Stream. You have a video from when Biden coming to presidency talking about Nord Stream would not exist, or Nord Stream 2 would not exist, and now both pipelines don't exist. You had follow-up comments from this lady, Victoria Nuland, who is the Undersecretary of Foreign Relations, I believe, and she's been involved in the State Department for over 30 years. She's worked with administrations from Bush on up, she has also said that this pipeline would not be able to exist. So there's speculation there. And then you have that foreign defense minister from Poland tweeting out, deleting tweets now, saying, "Thank you, USA." So Russia's using this as evidence to say, hey, obviously this was from the US. The US is saying, well, obviously this is from Putin, and France is now saying it, and NATO has said it was sabotage. And you had the IEA yesterday saying there's an obvious character behind this, without saying who that person was. And so when the International Energy Association is saying that, who knows? Remember, they helped us with the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. So we have to really get the evidence, and we'll see what happens. And so while you look at the electrical grid and what that means for the economy in Sweden, you have to also look at the market and what's happening there. And we're seeing IPOs getting pulled back. These were significant IPOs. Like Meds is the one that announced today, and this would have been an online pharmacy where you could order your pills online and then get them delivered. The players behind that are some of the people involved in our Swedish real estate market and have been very successful there. And they feel that the market is not stable to bring this product out to market, although it has been in operation since 2018, 2017. So we do see a crimping of the financing within the market and IPOs. But one area that has been relatively ineffective has been the healthcare. This is an undersupplier, so maybe the market just wasn't strong enough for them. They didn't have a strong enough current subscriber base to their market to justify going to the market. And then I already mentioned about the store locales where they're empty. And you can look at Booli for the housing market, because that's owned by SBAB, which is a state-owned bank and strong primary mortgage lender here in Sweden. And their figures there, they're very clear. And you can look at the Swedish Central Statistics Bureau, scb.se. If you want to get more figures, we document everything, so it's a great resource. And but so then if we look further into the Swedish market, where are the Swedes investing? Well, the dollar did pull back, but now it's making a slight move against the crown, the Swedish crown. It's also made a move against the but not the British pound. It had made a move, and then the British pound is starting to make a move back, and that's on the back of the Truss administration. We'll see what happens there. But the NATO effort and what's going on in Ukraine seems to be at the forefront. You did have protests reported in the Wall Street Journal talking about protests in France about the Ukraine war and inflation, or the inflation that it's caused. So it's a little unsettling on how the EU governments will react. And you've seen these comments about Italy. You see the comments about Serbia and their application and what they want to do with gas so that they don't run into the same problems that they see coming this winter. And so we have a lot of unease here in the markets, and we'll see which way it goes. We'll all be watching to see what the United Nations says today. And again, really, if you want any trading strategies, again, there's a number of them that you can use. We had a recent discussion with Anders Haglund, so you can use him or many others. And we look to have some other people on talking about strategies here in Sweden that Swedish investors are employing. So with that, I'll wish you a great weekend, and keep your chins up, and have a good weekend. Thank you very much.